Now that you've built in your internal analytics system, you'll be able to see where your traffic is coming from and where it's going. Of course, you'll be able to look down and see which geographic location people are going to be from, their browsers, and a whole lot of other information that'll provide you answers to the 5 W's. On top of this, there's also an additional way to take a look at where your conversations are going and who's talking about your brand, or your product, or your community off your network. One of the best ways to do this is hit the 2 major social networks. Some of the best ways to identify conversations that are occurring off your network or your external community are by looking at the different social networks. Now, both Twitter and Facebook have some of the easiest ways to identify public posts, so let's just take a look at those real quick. So for this example, we're going to make it as if we're looking at Prius for our topic and trying to find other people that might be talking about our community or our products in general. So let's look at the public Facebook timeline. Basically, you just put in search. Once the initial search pops up, you'll then want to refine that by selecting public posts. From here, you'll be able to see any posts that mention the term Prius, and then it will list all of the relevant information as well. Another tool that you can also use for Facebook is something called OpenBook. Initially, what this was used for was kind of a joke site to point and poke fun at Facebook's privacy issues, but it just works quite as well, and you can actually break it down between male and female as well. All you do is put in the search term, and it will pop up all the relevant information as well. So taking a look at Twitter, again, it's pretty easy. Up at the top navigation bar, you just type in your search term. Up pops this information. By default, it'll give you all the top tweets that have relevant keywords to what you search for. Now, essentially what this means is either people that have had their tweets retweeted, favorited, or it just appears in a lot more feeds than someone who doesn't have any. Basically, this helps weed out spammers or people that use certain hashtags just so their tweets appear more public. However, if you want to go and see what everyone's saying, you just select all, and that means it will pretty much give you in real time all the tweets that appear with these hashtags or these keywords that you're using. Now, on top of the default search engines that are built into Facebook and Twitter, there are quite a few other tools that really help you identify different bits of information and conversations that are occurring. So one that kind of encompasses more than social networks is called Social Mention. It's pretty easy to use. Of course, it's free. All you have to do is put in your search term, just like Google search, and up pops a whole plethora of information. So on the left side, it will kind of break down the different information that it's pulling. It's got anything from the strength, sentiment. Sentiment would be like the positive negative ratio when people are discussing it, the reach, discussing or identifying how many unique authors are going to be posting information about it, and other kind of relevant information. Now, it might not be completely accurate, as I'm assuming this is kind of beta formula data here, but it will give you some pretty good information. So maybe you're a brand or a community manager that's associated with a brand. It's going to be useful to identify any negative issues or conversations that'll be occurring. So this is going to be anything from a social network to anything written in a blog. Basically anything that has text and gets pulled up from Google, it comes into here. Moving further down, you'll also be able to see some relevant hashtags that relate to your keyword. So as you can see on the left here, our initial one was Prius. Of course, right below it, it's going to be the brand, and then some additional information like pickup, auto news. Or essentially, these are looking like the people who have been tweeting it the most. Even more important, down below it, it's going to say sources. So this is going to be showing you where the most places are linking to it, or to your keyword. So it's looking like Photobucket's a pretty big one, and Twitter as well. And of course, you can click on these, and it should break it down further. And it'll allow you to see specifically where that search term is being pulled from. And as you can see here, I broke it down by Photobucket. So these are going to be a whole lot of images that people have posted personally, And then, as you may or may not be aware, Twitter now actually uses PhotoBucket as their built-in image hosting, so this is probably going to be a lot of Twitter-based users as well. So moving on, let's maybe take for example that there's an event occurring. Let's say that we're using a hashtag of just plain old Prius and that we're hosting a conference in a specific location. Well, luckily there's this pretty cool website called TrendsMap or trendsmap.com. You can hone in on a geographic area. This is going to be based off of Google's or Google Maps, and you can pretty much just zoom in. It'll allow you to see what people are talking about based on their tweets being tagged. So obviously this is not going to be Facebook relevant, but a lot of people are obviously still using Twitter, and if you're going to have a hashtag dedicated to an event, this is going to be a great way to identify if you're going to have a high amount of people tweeting about it, and it's just kind of a neat little visualization as well. So recently the White House had announced certain plans about contraception, so that's going to appear. And then, of course, Mitt Romney and Santorum were just here talking, so a lot of people were tweeting about that. So that's why these are appearing. Now, if you want to click on this, a little window will appear, and it'll kind of give you some additional information and a real-time feed of people using that keyword as well. Moving on, we'll take a look at hashtags.org. Again, I've already put in Prius into the search box, and essentially what it gives you is just a list of all the tweets that are using that keyword right now. Now, if you have something that's going to be discussed a little bit more, probably like Obama, it should give you a little chart of the trends and usage over a period of days, rather than in infrequent terms such as Prius. And finally, here's another very similar thing to hashtags.org. It's called Twubs. Now, it looks very similar. It pretty much just gives you a feed just like the hashtags.org feed did. However, I use it more of trying to find and identify other hashtags that are being used. Now, again, obviously you can use social mention, but it doesn't always pull every bit of related hashtags. So essentially all you have to do is type in the term Prius, and what will pop down below that is going to be other search terms that relate to it. So as you can see here, Prius chat, that's our base example that we're using here. Other people are talking about Prius decals, Prius USA, that sort of thing. And once you put that information in there, down below it, it also gives you related twubs, or what we know as hashtags. So this is going to be what people are currently talking about. And again, you can just click them. It'll bring up that feed and kind of give you an idea of who's talking about it and where that information is. Just as a reminder, the 99-1 rule, a majority of your users are not actually going to be frequently engaging or creating content on your community. However, these are the people who are going to actually be contributing the most to your growth. So you'll want to embrace certain things like having a social share button or widgets on your site that allow people to share your content, and that, again, will reach out to other audiences and potentially bring them back to your community. So these are the people who are going to be helping you grow and keeping your ecosystem a little bit self-sustaining, more so than a community that's more about engagement. So focus as much as you can on those lurkers, as well as what your community and your members are asking you directly for. And finally, another point is going to be, if you have users that are coming to your site at a large increasing rate, but they're not engaging in your site, try to take a look at why that's not occurring. Now, there's several ways to do this. You can create a funnel or a form funnel on Google Analytics. Basically, all you have to do is identify if people are registering for your site, where they drop off, and if people are having to register to comment on your site, again, just try to figure out where they're dropping off and where the disconnect is. That sometimes it just might be a little bit too difficult to go through the process, or going through several different page loads to leave a simple comment. So you might want to consider adding a different tool such as Discuss or Livefire that makes it really easy to just log in with an account you might already have, such as OpenID, Facebook, Twitter, that sort of thing. And it'll basically improve engagement just because you've increased the ease of use.